Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the merciful, the benevolent. My name is Samsor Safi, and this is an exclusive English program on the issue surrounding Duran line. To most international audience, it may not be familiar what Duran line is. To every Afghan, it's a very known fact. It's the line that it's a British colonial line that to this day have divided indigenous Afghan people on two sides, some in Pakistan and some on Afghanistan. It's been the fault of Afghans themselves that haven't explained this issue to international audience. So this is our attempt to have a discussion. And this discussion is a friendly discussion between people of the entire region, the people of Afghanistan, especially the younger Afghan and diaspora and outside Afghanistan, the Pakistani population, the Indians, the Muslims, all international audience against this British colonial injustice that because of that, Afghan people suffer to this day. The name of this program is 1947 Creation of Pakistan on Occupied Afghan Territory or Soil. This is a colonial injustice that we need to explain to international audience how Afghan people suffer because of this to this day. See, when we hear most of the time 1947 creation of Pakistan, we hear about partition of India, that India got divided and the eastern Pakistan, which is known as Bangladesh today, and western Pakistan, that's known as Pakistan today. We never hear this, that this western Pakistan, today's Pakistan, is actually created on half of Afghan territory. To talk about this more and the background of it, and most importantly, a line that was created by British colonial power of the time, the British Raj of India or the British Empire in India. I have a distinguished guest with me, a scholar, a writer, a researcher, Dr. Noor Ahmad Khalidi from Australia. Dr. Noor Ahmad Khalidi is going to join me momentarily and we will start this discussion. Dr. Khalidi, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Safi. You're most welcome, and I'm glad to be in your program.
Yeah, Dr. Khalidi, this is our attempt, and of course, we always want a just solution for this international colonial injustice. And first of all, we want to educate especially the younger generation in the region and internationally about this issue. One of example that I always talk about in the issue of Palestine and Israel, another colonial injustice. International audience know exactly what was going on in early 1900s, how the state of Israel was created. This issue hasn't been explained on our region, Afghanistan and Pakistan and India. So this is a first attempt. I just want to give a brief introduction before we come to this specific topic, which is Duran Line and how Pakistan was created. The modern state of Afghanistan, I'm going to show some maps on the screen. The modern state of Afghanistan was created in 1747. And the creator or the founding father of Afghanistan, the Emperor Ahmad Shah Abdali. The map of this is on the screen. This was the creation of Afghanistan. Of course, Afghanistan has a long 5,000-year-old history, but after many years of the different empires in the region, Afghanistan finally established its modern-day territory, which was during the Afghan Empire under Ahmad Shah Abdali. Moving forward to 1800s, early 1800s, the East British Company or East British India Company had established itself in India, well known, and was in a process of moving towards Afghanistan. Dr. Khalidi, I want to start taking your information, starting with early 1800 and what was going on in the region at that time.
Yes, Mrs. Safi, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, at the time when the British was expanding its reach in India and its grips on Indian subcontinent, at the time there was one great power which was a danger to the British Raj, to say, or the against the British colonial ambitions. It was the Durrani Empire, which was at the time the grandson of Ahmad Shah Abdali. Zaman Shah was in power in Afghanistan, and he was great danger to British Empire, to British colonial ambitions. What happened? The Indian Maharajas, Rajputs, and other local rulers, they sent a letter to Zaman Shah and asked him to come and help India get rid of the British colonials. And they promised that they will pay for the Afghan army every day, like it was 2,000 gold coins to. Sorry, I have to get rid of that file. They promised to pay for his expenses so that he agreed. He gathered this expedition, and he reached up to Lahore and passed Lahore. And at the time, the British was very, they were in great danger because they didn't have that power at the time. It was only the East India Company army in Bengal and Mysore, which was at the time trying to occupy other parts of India. They were not great force in North India. It took 100 years for the British to move from Bengal and South India to North India.
So the British, when they were in India, their focus point initially was in Bengal, which is in eastern India. And on the western side, there's a great empire of itself, the Afghan Empire, the Abdali Empire.
Yeah, that's northwest. Also, British had some foot in Bombay and also in Madras, so that at those areas, they were moving up. So the Afghan army was ready to get rid of British. However, what the British did, they sent a mission to Iran, to Isfahan, to the Qajar court, and asked the Qajar court that to attack Afghanistan. And they promised him a lot of, resources and other friendship and others. And they said, it's better you attack Afghanistan and do not let them attack India, which they did. And they give him a
typical colonial way of basically.
And they give him a reason also. They said Afghanistan's Amir's brother, Shah Mahmud, was in Iran, and he has the right to be king. So you guys, Iran, should take him to the throne of Afghanistan. So this is why Qajars, supported Shah Mahmud, and with his support attacked from behind Zaman Shah army, and Zaman Shah had to come back to Afghanistan to face the Iranian invasion from the west. Unfortunately, he lost, and he lost his eyes, he was, and Afghanistan. So what I'm getting at is that at the time, Afghanistan was the greatest power in the region, and British somehow, through indirectly, avoided confrontation with.
I want to show another map on the screen. I'm sharing a screen picture which shows that the historical Afghan Empire of Abdali. This is what historical Afghanistan was. This was Afghanistan created, modern day Afghanistan created in 1747. And again, I want to focus on the point to our international audience. Of course, every Afghan knows this by heart. This is 30 years before Declaration of Independence for United States in 1778, when United States declared independence from the British Empire. At that time, only 13 colonies, but this is modern the Afghan Empire, as it says, and created in 1747 all the way to 1826. This is the map of historical Afghanistan. Please continue on, Dr. Khalidi.
Yeah. So once the British, as I said before, it took British 100 years to get to the north of India, and for the first time they sent an envoy to Afghanistan. Amir was Moonstewart Elphinstone. At the time, it was East India Company he was representing, and he came and provided his credentials to Afghan king of the time, Shah Shuja, at his winter capital, which was Peshawar. That year was 1809. He came with a delegation of 150 or 180 people, which included a guard of honor, and also a lot of expertise in various fields like demographers, population, statisticians, agricultural mines, every field of science at the time British had. They brought them, historians, they all came. And he signed a treaty with Shah Shuja up against Napoleon. And it was at the time there was rumors that Napoleon would come to Persia, and with the Persian help, they will attack Afghanistan. Through Afghanistan,
this is the treaty. It's known as Treaty of 1809, the Afghan and British treaty that Napoleon was. They feared Napoleon coming to Iran.
Yeah, correct. Yes, but then. Also, he spent almost 1.5 years with his big delegation in Afghanistan, collected a lot of data, as a result of which he wrote that famous book, An Account of Kingdom of Kabul, which was published a few years back, later in London. And it's one of the textbooks around the world. And still today, it's one of the very valuable books on Afghanistan. Anyway, so that was the first contact of diplomatic contact. So he also surveyed the area and what is going on here and what's that. Then the next time the British faced with Afghans was when the 1838, when the first Anglo-Afghan war was fought. And At the time, British was afraid of the Tsarist Russia invading Central Asia, and they feared that they might come through Afghanistan to India. This is why they wanted to Afghanistan become part of British Empire so that they could protect India. This is why.
For our international audience, a reminder that up in the north there's Russian Empire, in between there's Afghanistan or Afghan Empire. To the east in India, it's British Empire, and the British and Russian referred to sometime Afghanistan as a buffer, a term that's highly offensive to Afghan. We are not a buffer. We are an independent, proud nation that have way longer history than the Russians or the British themselves. So we're, Dr. Khalidi, we're in 1838, the first English-Afghan war, known as First Afghan-Anglo War. Please continue on.
Yes, this war was a disaster for the British. They came and they occupied Kabul and also occupied Kandahar. But at the end of the day, they were defeated by people of Afghanistan. And as a result, from the British army in Kabul, only one survivor reached British camp in Jalalabad, which was Dr. Dryden. And then after that, the British sent another punitive force to punish Afghans who did that disaster, who brought about that disaster to the British army. And they came and burned Kabul and did a lot of, killings and other atrocities.
And I want to show actually that historical picture of Dr. Brighton. It's not a picture, of course, it's a photography, but to every Afghan, it's the great part of its history. On your screen, you see the last surviving British leaving Afghanistan at the end of the first Afghan Anglo War of 1838 to 1842. On this screen, the picture of that. Please continue on.
Yeah, okay. Now, after that, British left Afghanistan, and because Afghanistan didn't want it, or the Afghan Amir, they didn't want any British envoy to be stationed in Kabul, in Afghanistan capital. So they then after that, it took 37 years for the British to face Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. This was again, the British was alarmed by approaching Tsarist Russia in Central Asia.
And Dr. Khalidi, I just want to, earlier we had some technical issue. This is that famous picture of at the end of the first Afghan-Anglo War, that every Afghan is very familiar with this picture or this drawing, the last surviving British leaving Afghanistan and end of Afghan-Anglo War between 1838 and 1842. Please, Doctor, continue. We're going, I think, closer to the second Afghan Anglo War of late 1800s.
Yeah. Then what happened? British again, alarmed by approaching Tsarist Russia toward Afghanistan borders in the north, and also particularly the British envoy, the Tsarist envoy in Kabul. And they insisted on Amir Sher Ali Khan, upon Amir Sher Ali Khan, to let a British ambassador be stationed in Kabul. Which he refused. So what the British did was send an expedition, an army, to install a British ambassador by force in Kabul. And they fought through, again, from Kandahar and Junubi and Mashriqi, which is the Nangarhar, and they captured Jalalabad, and they came to between Jalalabad and Kabul to Gandamak.
Mhm.
At this time, Amir of Afghanistan, Amir Sher Ali Khan, was not prepared very well for this war. So he went in desperation to north of Afghanistan to gather more army, as well as also he asked the Russians to help. He didn't get any help from Russians, and he had a heart attack in Mazar Sharif, and he passed away. So in Kabul, his son, Yaqub Khan, became king, Amir of Afghanistan. And at the time, the British was about to invade Kabul, and they were in Gandamak, which is like 60 kilometers or 70 kilometers from Kabul. So the British proposed to him a treaty, which is very infamous as the Treaty of Gandamak.
Mhm.
And in that, he signed. Unfortunately, that treaty has two implications, two major points. One, that the Afghanistan government shall accept a British envoy in Kabul, and that British envoy should be somebody of European origin.
Mhm.
And second, Afghanistan should conduct its foreign relation through his British ambassador in Kabul or through British India. So these 2 points were forced upon him, and so he signed, unfortunately. And the guy who signed this treaty from the British side was Kiunari. Kiunari he became the British envoy in Kabul, and then people of Kabul. After I think it's a year or a little bit more, rose up against him, and there was a agitation, and he was killed. He was killed, and then again the Afghans took over Kabul, and the British army was in disarray. And at the time, the British sent another army. It was General Alphonse name. This is another Alphonse, not the one we talked about before. And he came as a punitive army again in Kabul. And it occupied Kabul. And also in Kandahar, there was Ayub Khan came from Herat. And with an army of people from Herat, and there were wars in Kandahar close to.
And I just want to, Dr. Khalidi, show the picture of that Kandahar battle. It's called the Battle of Maiwand. Again, a very famous picture of it on the screen. Please share screen. This is the picture known of Malala, this young Afghan woman. The story goes like I think the Afghan army was facing defeat. They had a lot of injured, and a young woman named Malala, which is a very famous name in this part of the world. She runs and she takes Afghan flags and she calls upon the men to come and fight and defend the homeland. And of course, Afghans become victor in this battle of Maiwand. And I just should remind again our international audience, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, Malala Yousafzai. She actually takes her name after this Malala of Battle of Maiwand in 1878, the second Afghan Anglo War. 1878. Thank you, Dr. Khalidi. Please continue on.
Yeah, what happened? British lost the war. However, Yaqub Khan resigned from
The British lost the war, but Afghans had become very weak at this point too, right?
I was going to mention that. Yaqub Khan resigned from his position as Emir of Afghanistan, and the British sent him to India with his family and supporters. There was no one to sit on the throne in Afghanistan. And this was another danger for British and Afghanistan without an emir, without a government, was more dangerous than a government stable, which could have had relations with British India. This is why they were in desperation, where they were looking for one of the royal princes who could become king. So then they decided upon Amir Abdurrahman Khan. At the time, he was not Amir. He was a son of Amir Afzal Khan. So he was eligible. He was legitimate, here. So he was at the time in Bukhara, in Central Asia. And so they sent upon him, and he came. And he became king of Afghanistan, and he served as a king in Charikar, in Parwa.
And on the screen, I'm going to show a picture of Abdurrahman Khan. And this is now we're moving into close to end of 1800s. Now there are cameras and actual pictures, not drawings. So on the left, you see King of Afghanistan, Abdurrahman Khan. On the right, Duran, the British officer. We will talk about him in a little bit. Thank you. Continue on.
Sir Mortimer Duran, yeah. The British secretary, foreign secretary of India. Well, Abdurrahman Khan became a king in Kabul, and at the time, we had, as Mr. Samsul Safi mentioned, there was this Maiwand War, which British lost to Afghans, and they suffered a lot of casualties, and so they left Kandahar. They left. After Abdurrahman Khan became king, the British army left Afghanistan, and they agreed that they will not have any envoy in Kabul. So they left Afghanistan. However, before leaving, there was Amir Abdurrahman Khan made a big mistake here. He was in a position to ask or to demand or to spell out his demands to English, to the British, that because Afghans won the war, so they were in a better position. So Afghans could have demanded a lot of things from India, from the British India. However, he made a mistake. He asked the British, "What do you want?" instead. And the British said, the Gandamak Treaty, which was signed by Yaqub Khan, you should adhere to that. And we are not.
On the screen, I'm showing a map of the British India at the time. And is it the accurate depiction to show this was the British India?
No. This was not the British India at the time.
It wasn't.
This is the British after the Duran Treaty.
Oh, okay. This is after the Duran.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Okay, I will stop sharing it.
Yeah. What happened? He asked British, "What do you want?" The British asked him to adhere to the treaty signed by Amir Yaqub Khan in Gandamak. And the British say, "We don't want anything else. We will never interfere in Afghanistan. We will never send any troop in Afghanistan." So he agreed. So I mentioned before, it had 2 points. One, the Treaty of Gandamak. One, that there should be an envoy in Kabul. That one was deleted. He didn't agree to that, but he agreed that he will conduct his foreign relations through New Delhi, through British India in India, Foreign Office.
Now, why
So
did he agree to that? Was
this,
Afghanistan in a weaker position? Could it demand
no,
anything
this
more?
is a mystery. I think this is a mystery because he could have said no. British were they were not ready to fight for that point at the time.
But
The British,
also, there was a huge pressure from the north, the Russian Empire. So there was a
no,
possibility of.
not really, because Abdurrahman Khan had good relations with the Russians there. He knew everybody in Bukhara, and the British envoys, the Tsarist envoy in Bukhara. He knew them, and we had a good time with them, and there was no pressure there. But what happened? He agreed to this British term. Maybe he wanted to have, no problem with the British, so that he could build up Afghanistan, build up Afghanistan army, build up Afghanistan government, build up the administration here. So he wanted to have, no problem, no issue with the British in forthcoming years. So this is why he agreed to that. So this is why we call that Afghanistan was independent, was at the time invaded, and this because we didn't have, or Afghanistan didn't have, or Amir Abdurrahman Khan didn't have any authority on dealing with other countries apart from India. So everything was through British India. If Afghanistan wanted to talk anything to Tsarist Russia, it was supposed to go through British India, and also to Qajars in Iran. It should go through British India and other
Well,
countries.
Afghanistan, as I understand what you're saying, Afghanistan was not a direct colony of British. Afghanistan never lost its independence, but
No.
its foreign affairs were controlled by British India.
Yeah, it became a buffer zone.
Buffer zone.
It became a buffer zone between British India and Tsarist Russia. And that suited British desires or designs at the time. So they wanted Afghanistan to be a country, a strong country, because a weak Afghanistan was not good for British, because that could Iranians could take it over, invade it, and Russians could invade it. So they wanted a stable Afghanistan, but a friendly Afghanistan. This is why they asked Abdurrahman Khan that treaty of Gandamak should continue, but they didn't insist on sending any envoy to Kabul, and that was a hold well up to Amir Amanullah Khan. No British envoy came to
So
Kabul.
this treaty held on all the way to 1919,
Correct.
30 something years.
Yes. Yeah. So now we are coming to the time that Abdurrahman Khan is now the Amir of Afghanistan. However, before that,
This is late 1800s we are talking about.
This is 1838, 1842, 1842, when the 1880, sorry, 1881, Abdurrahman Khan became king of Afghanistan. So 1882, British left Kandahar. So now in the 1800s, just in 1818, 1818 of Christian era, Ranjit Singh was the ruler of Punjab.
Yeah, he's known for creating the Sikh Empire.
The Sikh Empire. He, started a few campaigns against Afghanistan at the time, and he took over Durrani Empire territories or dominions in Kashmir, in Punjab, in Sindh, as well as Pashtun areas west of Attack.
And
So
he was assisted by the British during his campaign against Afghans, right?
Yeah, British wanted at the beginning that Ranjit Singh and his army become like a wall between Afghans and British India, so that Afghans could not go through this wall to invade India. This is why they helped in a lot of ways Ranjit Singh to wrestle out all these Afghan dominions in India, like Kashmir, like Punjab, like Sindh, and like Attack and Peshawar, and they were occupied by Ranjit Singh. And then the British, they attacked Ranjit Singh and removed him from his power and took all of his dominions by themselves. So British
a typical colonial British technique.
Absolutely.
First send somebody else to war and then take that person out.
Yeah. So British came and took all of these areas, and this on the Pashtun, living areas of west of Sindh, they occupied what we call it now Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, or Northwest Frontier. And they created this Northwest Frontier province. However, this is very important for our topic on Duran. Mm-hmm. A lot of Afghan people don't understand this quite right. They have to understand that quite right.
And I want to show a map online. And by the way, this is what I could just find on Google. This is going to be on the screen. Of course, it says Pakistan in there, and Pakistan is not a country until 1947. So when you're mentioning Pashtun population, indigenous Afghan people, the green area, and this shows the Pashtun or Afghan populations in the region. And we can see, the city of Peshawar is, which is actually a major population center, the province of Waziristan. So this brings us to the actual topic, which is the 1893 Treaty of Duran. Go ahead, I will keep this map on.
Yeah, these green areas east of the Duran line, and these are the Pashtun dominated areas who live currently in 2024. There are 45 million Pashtuns live in those areas, which is twice the size of the Pashtuns in Afghanistan.
So let me get this number very clear to the our international audience who might watch this. So you're saying there's about estimated 20 million Pashtuns on Afghanistan side, and there's 40 plus million Pashtuns on the Pakistan side.
Yeah. The 40 plus is coming from a census of population of Pakistan, which was conducted last year, 2021. Actually.
And it may not be accurate. It could be even 50 or 60 million plus.
Yeah, could be. But but that is around that number. Over 40 million people live, the Pashtuns, who call themselves Pashtuns, who take the census forms as Pashtun, live on those green areas, live all over Pakistan. That many people, not necessarily only in these areas, but all over in Pakistan, around over 40 million Pashtuns live. So there's another map. I don't know if you could dig it out. It's if you Google FATA, FATA, Federally Administrated Tribal Areas, FATA map. If you because that has a lot of bearings to what we are talking about here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So,
brings us to the main topic of the day, which is Duran Line in 1893. Why was this treaty signed, and who was it signed and with?
yeah. Okay. Now, if you put that map again, please,
Okay,
because
I'm gonna share this screen, and we're going to this map again. And by the way, if you Google search Duran Line, Fatah, FATA, there we go. I have that map on the screen right now. Please.
bring it
Yeah.
up, please. Yeah. Okay. Now, what happened? As I said, by the time by 1818, from 1818 to 1835, 1835, Ranjit Singh took Peshawar from Afghanistan. So half of this green areas east of Duran line was taken by Ranjit Singh.
Hmm.
So there was a gap. There was a gap between British India and Afghanistan proper, which was a buffer zone between British India and Afghanistan. These are the tribal areas, which is Pashtun tribal areas along the Afghan and British India, phase of influence, that nobody had authority over them. Neither Afghan government had full authority over them, neither the British India had full authority over them. This was a cause of concern for British India because of law and security, maintenance.
So the actual title for that is Federally Administrative Tribal Area,
Correct.
FA.
That's the name. That's the name. And these areas include Chitral, Siwat, Bajawar, Waziristan, South Waziristan, North Waziristan, Kurum, Momand, and a few more. All of these.
I'll show a different map on the screen, which has actually the actual names of these
Yes,
areas.
that would be good.
Yeah, it may not be our most favorite map, but at least it has the names on the screen. So I'll bring that on the screen, and I'll zoom on the area that you're referring to. Right here.
But it's not very clear. Anyway,
Not very clear, yeah.
It's not clear. Yeah, I wish I could have sent you that map before so that you could put it up.
And Dr. Quality, this is just the beginning of this conversation. We don't have, this is for educational purposes. Everybody can research this.
Because this is very important for people to understand. You could get rid of that map, please. Now, what happened? British, as I said, by 1835, Ranjit Singh took a lot of Pashtun areas, occupied along with Kashmir, along with Multan, Sindh, and other areas. So this was already taken away from Afghan authority. Now British removed Ranjit Singh from picture. Now it is Afghanistan authorities face British directly. So this is now British facing off with Afghans. Mm-hmm. Now they have these areas which is called, later it was called Federally Administrative Tribal Area, but at the time it was just Qabaili areas.
Yeah.
And they were free. That's the important thing of it. It was free Qabaili areas.
And Qabaili means tribal. The Pashtun
tribal. Free tribes. They were not either under the Afghan authority, neither British India. So they were doing their own thing. Now, this was not good for British India and also not for Afghanistan. So they proposed to Amir Abdurrahman Khan to have a treaty to decide who has authority for law maintenance, for administration over these areas. So this Duran Treaty is just for that purpose. I have the Duran Treaty here itself. And
so again, the Duran Treaty signed in 1893 between the Amir or King of Afghanistan, Amir Abdurrahman Khan, and then the British envoy Duran.
Yeah. So Sir Mortimer
Duran. Their picture again on the screen, and
yeah.
I will also show the line of the treaty as well.
Yeah. Sir Mortimer Duran was a foreign secretary. His name is here. He was foreign secretary to the British India government. So foreign minister, I could say. And Amir Abdurrahman Khan, of course, he was the Amir. This was signed on the 12th of November, 1893 in Kabul.
Exactly the date I have too.
Yeah, in Kabul. And the purpose of this treaty was I better read here something from Duran himself.
Okay.
Because this is important for people to understand. Because some people don't understand this. He was interviewed, Duran was interviewed a year later by Asian quarterly journal about the purpose of this treaty.
So from what I understand, it's this line, which I will show the line again on the screen. The purpose of this treaty was that this will be like a line of control between Afghanistan and British India, that they will not be crossing to each other's territory, and both armies will be standing guard, and something even between a lot of countries we have right now, between British and Afghans. This was the line of control, that they were not supposed to pass this line with each other's armies.
Yeah. This Sir Mortimer Duran, he himself mentioned about the nature of the treaty. He, in an interview a year later, said that this treaty is this do not provide a frontier between Afghanistan and British India. This line is a demarcation of authority of the Amir and the British India on tribes who are free. This is what he said. The tribes who are free and they are not under the British authority, as well as not under authority of the Amir. So this treaty is demarcating the who should have administration powers over these people if needed.
Again, so, I'm going to show the line on the screen, share the screen, the Duran line. And Doctor, I want to emphasize here, Dr. Khalidi, for a second here. Um, Again, it comes to one of the greatest injustice, colonial injustice of divide and rule. Today, I will see this line. I say this is a racist colonial line dividing one people, dividing one
Let me
nation, indigenous population.
Yeah, let me read in English what Mortimer Duran himself said in that interview.
Please
He
go ahead.
said, this was quoted by Asiatic Quarterly Review series. And that was 1863. That was the quotation. He says, the Duran Line of 1893 divided zones of responsibility of the maintenance of law and order between British India and the Kingdom of Afghanistan. Listen to this, very important. It was never intended as a de jure international boundary. Duran himself is saying, it was never intended as a de jure international boundary. And this is where I quote this from, Encyclopedia Britannica, December 7, 2016. In Encyclopedia Britannica, dated dated December 7, 2016, it is mentioned. So we cannot have a better authoritative explanation on the purpose of the Duran Treaty than this one, because this comes the mouth of the horse itself,
Right.
Duran himself. So he says this is not intended to be boundary. It is just to show that. So now we're coming back to why this is important. This becomes very, very important later on. Now, for 131 years, so this line exists now. When British left India, 1947.
Before we get to 1947, Dr. Khalidi, I think it will be important if we can go to the year 1919, the Third Anglo-Afghan War. A brief explanation what happens there, which is also considered a greatest historical achievement for Afghanistan. Afghanistan has its full independence from British in year 1919. If you can,
Mr. Samsur, that will break the train of my thoughts.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Leave it for later.
Okay,
we are talking about the Duran line now, and this is important.
Okay,
because that what Duran said is becoming very important. When Pakistan was created, Pakistan became inherited the British India domains, which was voted to be part of Pakistan. So this is all the Muslim, majority area of current Pakistan, plus West Bengal. Now, at this time, so this is, some people should listen to this, important. Mm-hmm. Pakistan inherited the domains of British India. These tribal areas were not domains of British India. British India was defined in a law in 1953. 1953, there's a law called 1935. 1935. There's a law called British India, and in that British India, it has a map, and it's showing where is British India. These tribal areas were not included in British India. So Pakistan cannot be an inheritance of the Pashtun area by law. Because a lot of Afghans don't understand this important point. They don't get it. Some people say this treaty of Duran was never signed. If we never signed, then we cannot claim now that these are ours. Because no court in the world is going to bring a colonialist to account for. That no law, there is no law against colonialism in the world. Not the United Nations, never. But United States invaded so many countries. There's no law against it.
But one of the UN conventions, I think it's in 1960s, it holds a lot of these colonial coerced treaties, which is really a very powerful colonial power versus a very weak colony.
No, that is Mr. Samsul Safi. That doesn't apply to this. That's a 1969 convention on the law of treaties, the Vienna Convention, they call it, 1969. And there's Afghan scholar, Mr. Saidi, was quoting that this is, according to the law, Afghanistan never go back to that. No, that law doesn't apply to years prior to that. So only that convention, 1969, applies to all treaties after 1969. So not before that. So now we are coming back to this treaty. Why, after Pakistan became an independent country, Pakistan inherited the lands belonged to British. The Pashtun area did not belong to British. In other words, if I say. Now, did not belong to British because Duran himself said that. They were free. Now, this is why important, because in 1905, Habibullah Khan approved, his father's treaty with British on Duran, and on 1919, Amanullah Khan again approved that. And later, then in 1921, again in Treaty of Kabul, Amanullah Khan approved that. However, 1921 treaty by signing 1921 treaty, all the previous treaties were all null and void. So only in 1921 Treaty of Kabul, it says that, that agreement of Duran, it doesn't say Duran, but it says that Amanullah Khan, Habibullah Khan treaty will help good. However, Kabul treaty had 3 years validity, only 3 years. Any party could have, with 1 year notice, could have null and voided. This is why after Pakistan was created, and then in 1949, Pakistan bombed Paktia somewhere. So Afghan government held a lawyer and declared all treaties with British India and then null and void. So according to Treaty of Kabul, Afghan government acted on part and null and void. So there's no law, treaty in force now. The Duran Treaty was null and void in 1949 by Afghanistan lawyer. However, now, when Pakistan became, inherited Indian territories or British, they didn't know that they do not have the authority on the Pashtun areas. And also the British government at the time confused about that. They sought a legal opinion from their Minister of Justice, and he wasn't aware of this buffer zone between British India and Afghanistan, which is the tribal areas. So what happened? This was once Afghanistan, null and void the treaty. British thought that Afghanistan applied to go to Security Council of United Nations and get those years back. But America didn't let him America did not let Afghanistan, take this to the Security Council. But then the British thought then Afghanistan may go to international court. This is why the British.
So, Dr. Khalidi, I just want to recap the conversation we're having. In 1893, the Duran Treaty is signed between Afghanistan, an independent nation, and the British India, in which the Duran line is depicted on this map, and then the east of this line is kind of like, we can say, majority of Pashtun people where they live, and this was a free tribal areas. Later on in 1947, when British leave India and they partition India and create this new country called Pakistan, Pakistan assumes the British areas and says this territory is in my country, which is historical and native people, native Afghan people in there. And in 1947, Afghanistan raised this concern in United Nations also. Did I summarize that accurately?
Yes, correct. Now here is the issue. The issue is that as I said, Kabul Treaty had 3 years validity. It was signed 2021, so it will expire in 2025. At the time, at the British Parliament, the Minister for Colonial Commonwealth, to say, he raised this issue in a memorandum. He said Treaty of Kabul had 3 years validity. His name was Lord Birkenhead. He sent a memo to all the parliamentarians in Britain and said, Treaty of Kabul now due to expire. And Afghanistan has the right to null and void it. That's one. And then once this Afghanistan in 1949 null and voided, I mentioned that the British, America didn't let Afghanistan go to Security Council, but British thought Afghanistan may go to court. So what they did, they asked the minister, they call it the legal advisor of British India, British government in London, which is, we call it in Afghanistan, Wazir Adliya, justice minister. They call it the legal advisor of the government. So they sent a request to legal advisor and asked to look into the treaty and to decide if Pakistan has the legal authority to inherit these areas or not. Because if Afghanistan goes to court, even now in Court of International Justice Court, Afghanistan would say that when Pakistan was created, Pakistan had not authority to inherit these lands because these lands were not British lands. They were free tribal areas. It was a buffer. So,
and I want to share a new picture on the online, which actually was a picture shared during a World Council for Public Democracy, and this picture actually, it shows what Afghanistan should be, the map of Afghanistan. Sharing on the screen, please. And this is basically the map of what we call Greater Afghanistan, Loy Afghanistan, or historical Afghanistan, because this Duran line, it's a colonial legacy. People on both sides are victim, and there's literally now Pakistan government is trying to put barbed wires on this line. This also cuts off Afghanistan from to the Indian Ocean, which a lot of time to this day, some of the effects of it that we see, that Pakistan sometime it closes the borders, which is to our own people, our own territory, and then our traders, our farmers cannot do export and import properly. So this is a issue. Dr. Khalidi, is this map depicts a historical Afghanistan, what Afghanistan should be?
I'm not going into those. I don't agree to that line to say that.
Yeah.
This is not accurate Afghan land, Afghan map. Especially, we are encroaching on Baloch peoples, and claiming Baloch lands as Afghanistan's lands. That is propaganda type of thing. Now, Now, the British government asked its legal advisor to make a ruling, to give advice to the British. If Afghanistan goes to international court, whether Afghanistan has the right to take these areas or not. So what the legal advice to British government, I'll read it first in my own language, and in Dari, because I have I translated it here. I don't identify its English translation. This is actually published in, this is written by the source is Ludwig Adamek. You know Adamek? Ludwig W. Adamek? Dictionary of Historical Dictionary of Afghanistan. It was published in 2012. This is in that document. This document is by Ludwig Adamek, which is very authoritarian writer, and it was published in the Afghanistan Historical Dictionary of 2012. He wrote, and it says, he quotes British sources, which say the British legal advice was در 15 اگست سال 1947 یعنی in the parentheses زمان تشکیل کشور دولت پاکستان بنابراین مناطق قبایلی ایالت شمال غرب در حالت بین المللی سردرگم قرار گرفته مربوط به هیچ دولتی نشدند. در چنین حالت مناطق قبایلی مستقل از پاکستان بوده با وجودی که یک سلسله روابط گمرکی مخابراتی و غیره پاکستان با این مناطق داره، اما معلوم می شود که پاکستان نمی توانست وارث سرحدی باشد که در معاهده سال 1921 کابل تعیین شده بود. در معاهده 1921 کابل گفتیم که معاهده دیورنگ امان الله خان قبول میکنه. بنابراین این رفر میکنه با مو ساحات را یا اراضی را که در معاهده دیورند انگلیسا صلاحیت گرفته بودن. یعنی پاکستان نمیتونه وارث از او باشه.
So just to translate that in English,
I'll do it the whole thing. و یا وارث هر گونه حقی باشد که مطابق ماده دوم این معاهده باشد. با وجود این Now, in English, it says the legal advice from the British government was that at the time of Pakistan creation, the areas under the Treaty of Kabul was not under Pakistan authority. Pakistan could not inherit those areas because they were not part of British India. So these areas were a buffer zone. This is what they were buffer. So this is why Pakistan cannot claim that these are my areas. So this is what is important for many Afghans. They should understand. If they say Duran Treaty was never signed, so we do not have anything to claim in the international court. But we say, as Abibullah Khan agreed, as Amanullah Khan agreed, that the Duran was signed. The agreement was signed between Abdurrahman Khan and Sir Mortimer Duran. And we have a line in practice. And according to that treaty itself, these areas are not Pakistan. These are free Azad areas. This is why Pakistan last year or 2022, they incorporated these areas into Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to claim it. Now that anyway, that advice, legal advice, also says that Afghanistan could ask people of Pashtun on the other side of Duran, do you want to be part of Afghanistan? If they say yes, Afghanistan could claim that area. That is clearly mentioned in that legal advice. So now what to conclude? The British government itself understands that these areas are not Pakistan's own. These are by law, by treaty. So the international court is dealing with treaties, with the government treaties. They are not dealing with colonial, expansionism. Nobody could go say, Australia was invaded by America, that should be giving back to Aboriginal people. No, that's not. But you could go and place as a law, as a treaty in front of the court. You say this treaty, like this one, we could go to the court and to say to ask the International Court of Justice that Pakistan is not the beneficiary of these Pashtun areas under Treaty of Duran to be part of Pakistan because they were not included. So we have a case. And who is important is people of Pashtun in the other side of Duran line is the number one authority. If they say we want independent, they have the right to be independent because they were not owned by, their lands are not owned by Pakistan. Their land was free areas. Or they could say, we go back to Afghanistan. They could do both. Or they could say, okay, now we could be part of Pakistan, continue. So they have these three choices. People of Pashtun, the other side of the Duran line. So a court could decide that there should be a referendum in Pashtun areas and let people of the Pashtun areas decide which side they want to go. All those before referendums that Pakistan held, they were null and void because they were not given that right. They were given, do you want to be part of India or part of Pakistan? They said, of course, they were not going to be part of India. So that was not giving that choice, whether they want to be independent or part of Afghanistan or part of India. So an international court can give this choice to people of Pashtun and also to Baloch, and for that matter, because this Treaty of Gandamak demark this line. The first article in this during treaty, it says from Wakhan to Persian border. So it also covers a lot of Baloch areas. So this was it. I'm open to questions.
This was actually, Dr. Khalidi, a great beginner conversation. And of course, the reality of the situation today is that we have Afghanistan. We're facing a lot of problems. We have a government that's not internationally recognized. And on the other side, we have Pakistan, which will not give these Pashtuns and Baloch their right for a referendum. But the whole purpose is that we don't forget these issues. Just because, Afghanistan is weak today, it's not going to stay weak. And this is the part of it that we want to continue this conversation and pass the torch to the future generation. So what is your message to a young Afghan on the Pakistan side of the Duran line? What should they be doing? How they can educate themselves and how can they empower themselves for future justice?
Well, the Pashtun people living in current Pakistan, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and other areas of Pakistan, they have the right of self-determination uh, because nobody has given them this right before. So
But
they have,
Pakistan will not give them this right.
but this is now. I propose this the initiative should be taken by the Afghan government or a number of Afghan entities. They could go to international court and bring this issue to the International Court of Justice, IGC, International Court of Justice, so that this issue should be dealt with for once for and all, because this issue of Duran has become a very painful issue for Afghan people and for Pakistan as well. And that has, for 76 years or 77 years since Pakistan creation, that has soured our relations with Pakistan, caused a lot of friction between these two countries. It shouldn't be. We shouldn't be looking at Pakistan people as enemies, or Pakistan people should not be looking to Afghanistan people as enemies. This is
No,
why the
not purpose. Yeah.
Pakistan army always had this, issue with Afghanistan because of this issue, and they want this issue for them. It is a source of power because it continues, and they get overriding the police, the civilian issues, and just make it this
And
military.
that's what Dr. Khalidi I want to focus on. I want to share this picture on the screen. I mean, just looking this from the humanitarian point of view. Earlier, we saw basically maps, which when you show a map with a line, that's what it in a lot of human minds. Oh, it's a line and a map. But when you connect it to the actual reality of people who I refer to as a victim of this colonial injustice. This is basically Afghan people, Pashtun people. They're divided from each other through these barbed wires. This is, two cousins, for example, one live on one side of the line, another to the other side of the line. I have heard stories of homes, the houses on the Afghanistan side, and the front door is on Pakistan side. And few steps down, it's the other way around. There's a house that's on Pakistan side, and then the door is on Afghanistan side. So this is a pure humanitarian issue. One native people, one indigenous population divided from each other through these barbed wires. Duran line is barbed wires today. And this is a humanitarian catastrophe. And we don't want that. Our message, you clearly said it beautifully, I think, Dr. Khalidi. We have no problem with the people of Pakistan. We want to actually correct this colonial injustice and deliver justice and equality to people, to the same people on both sides of this wire. What is your point of view from pure
Yeah,
humanitarian point of
yeah,
view?
yeah, Mr. Safi. One thing people should understand: this barbed wire is a creation of America and Pakistan. I think paid by America last 5 years or 6 years to create that. However, for 130 years since Duran line was drawn, Duran himself and the intention was not to interfere between the movement of tribal people between the two sides. They were free. For 130 years, they were going about their business every day. Nobody was stopping them. I went to Turkhan border. I don't know if anybody been to Turkhan border, at the time of Zahir Shah, Dawood Khan. At the time of Dawood Khan, I went to Turkhan border. And I saw,
1960s and 70s.
yeah, in 1975, I went there, so 1976. Thousands of local people were just moving across the border. And nobody, not in Pakistan side, not in Afghanistan side, was asking them about visa with passport, because that was the norm. I couldn't go with my tie and thing, because I was not a tribal person. So, but the tribal person, so the intention of Duran Abdurrahman Khan was, and it is mentioned in the Duran Treaty, that this is not affecting the people movement. This is not affecting the tribal people. They are going about their business. It is just affecting the government's behavior, authority for maintenance of law. This is why as you mentioned, that for local people it didn't even matter, because it was free movement, free trade, free movement, and that should be like that. We have now in Europe the new form of that free movement of people, of goods and employment, everything that was in existence in Afghanistan, and between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and especially in tribal areas that were existing for 130 years. We had no barrier for the
Right.
movement of people. So
Well,
now it is the time. It is time for this issue to be left and rest, and also settled down between all parties. And the best way is for Afghanistan government to go to IGC, the International Court of Justice, ICG,
I see.
Court of ICG, and ask for a ruling. So
Or
that
ICJ, International Court of Justice.
ICJ,
Yeah.
International Court of Justice. The Afghanistan should go to IGC and ask for a ruling, and based on and a ruling request from Afghanistan should be that people of these tribal people had the authority to move freely, and that there was no official border. It was just a line of dividing the authorities of two governments, and it was not under British colonial territories. It was not part of British India. It was a buffer. It was a free buffer zone between Afghanistan and British India. So now Pakistan did not inherit these areas, so they should make a ruling to let people of these areas decide for themselves what they want.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think this
And
is it.
Dr. Khalidi and dear audience, I just want to remind, me and Dr. Khalidi, obviously, we are both Afghan. There's every Afghan network, there's hundreds of programs constantly talking about the injustice of Duran line. You might be wondering why we are speaking in English, because this is our first attempt on trying to start an international conversation on this topic. We want to engage the younger Afghan generation who lives in most of the Western countries. We want to engage a young Pakistani into this conversation. We want to engage a young Indian into this. That's why we are speaking in English. And I have a caller on the line. You're on a phone line. Do you have a question?
Yes. First of all, thank you very much for your program about Duran line. My name is Hanif Sai, and thank you, Dr. Khalidi, explaining about the Duran. One thing that historical Dr. Holiday explained from 18 something all the way that the government or the kings, they accepted. Okay, they didn't sign the line, but they accepted That's not all the problem. The problem is even during the Karzai in Ashraf Ghani time, they didn't talk about Duran. They let the Pakistanis to do what they wanted. I remember Dr. Khalidi was talking from about 1975 that he went to the Turkham border, but maybe I went 1968 or 67 to the Turkham border. There was nobody. It was like noon time, and we said, okay, there was not a store. We said, let those Pakistanis tell us where we can have lunch. And we were calling, nobody was sitting on the border or controlling the border. In the 80s, I went many times to that area. There was, yes, Pakistani border police were standing, and they asked me if I have a passport.
And of course, 1980 is a completely different situation. The Soviet invasion of
What is
Afghanistan.
the question?
Yeah. Could you please just state your question, please, so we can, because I have other callers.
Yes, my question is, okay, right now the situation is there. We don't want the 40 million or over 40 million to be separated from us. I don't know if you went to Pakistan or not, talked to the Pashtuns. I did, and they told me Peshawar or Pakhtunkhwa or Sobasahat economical is in good shape in the whole country of Afghanistan. Now, when Karzai was there in Ashraf Ghani, everybody knew that they are puppet government.
Okay, I got the point. I think I'm going to convey that this starts a good conversation. I thank you very much for your call.
Yeah, my question is, okay, what we have to do now? What we can do right now?
Okay.
I think
we will talk about it. Dr. Khalidi will try to answer. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Dr. Khalidi, this is something I hear a lot, like I was referring to earlier too. Afghanistan right now is in pretty bad shape economically, politically. What will be a Pashtun or Afghan living on the other side of the Duran line? What is their incentive? Why would they want to join a country that's in political or economic turmoil?
Yeah, well, I mentioned before that we want to settle this issue once for all. This is why we want to go to because this is a national issue for people of Afghanistan, especially for Pashtun people. It's an issue of substantial, psychological, historical leverage. So this has to be settled between Pashtuns themselves. So this is why I say that the best thing is for Afghanistan government to go to an international court and ask for a ruling. So that the ruling we ask for the court is to let people or allow people of Pashtun on the other side of the Duran line to decide themselves what they want.
Well, I wanna show that map one more time on the screen, which shows the Pashtun people.
Yeah, those people has to decide what they want. If they really want to be with Pakistan, okay, let it be. Then we in Afghanistan will be relieved. So we wouldn't have any issue with that, and we will not talk anymore about the Duran become a historical injustice. However, if those people would say, yes, they want to be an independent nation, that's their right, or they want to be part of Afghanistan, again, that is the right of people of Pashtun, of the other side of the Duran, to say what they want, not
Yeah,
us. That's
and
my
I just,
thank you.
Dr. Khalidi, to the caller who called, to the point of view, things are not really all nice and holly jolly on the Pakistan side. The Baluch and Pashtun territories are some of the weakest provinces, economical provinces of Pakistan. The infrastructure is not even compared to the infrastructure in Punjab and Sindh province. There's been always these turmoil. There's always been these uprising of Pashtuns and Baluch leaders asking for independence and not wanting the authority of Pakistan government. All the way dating back to 1940s, this has been going on. So it's not like people on the other side are just quiet, so there are
No,
economically
yeah.
depressed people in Pakistan side.
Yeah. However, you see, in Balochistan, we have a strong independent movement, a militant independent movement. It continues. In Pashtun areas, we have this PTM, Pashtun Tahaffuz movement, which is very active. So there are, so this those people could decide for themselves what can. Any other question, please?
I think, Dr. Khalidi, it's been a great 1.5 hours. I thank you so much. I appreciate your time and your knowledge for sharing on this important issues. It's definitely, at the end of the day, it comes to it's a people's issue, and we want to start a conversation for once and all a settlement or solution for this. We don't want people, especially Pashtun people, on both sides of this line suffering, and this suffering to continue. This is a colonial injustice and error. It needs to be corrected. I hope this program, Dr. Khalidi, has a good reflection on an international audience. We want to call upon every young Afghan to share it with their Pakistani friends, share this video with their Indian friend. And we want to start this conversation, and we want to continue to have more conversation. Any final thoughts on this issue, Dr. Khalidi?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I hope I had provided a clear, understanding or explained the issue, which is very complex issue actually, in a simple enough terms so that people could follow this, as it is, not through emotions and that always makes it difficult for people to distinguish between a reality and an illusion. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of illusions, or Low Afghanistan, for instance, Low Afghanistan illusion, or the reality on the ground. We should be very pragmatic about this. So our approach should be very pragmatic, and we should put the right of people of Pashtun and Baluch the first.
Front and
This,
center.
the right is first. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you so much. Well, I wish you all the best. And thanks for joining us, all audience, especially. This is a first conversation, and this a series that we want to start. A conversation to international audience on the issue of the line, which is not considered an official border by any Afghan government historically, a line between Pakistan and Afghanistan that has historically have divided the Pashtun and Baluch people on both sides of this line, and this line is called Duran. The name of this program, again, on the YouTube channel is going to be 1947 Creation of Pakistan. on Afghan soil, a British colonial injustice. Thank you for watching us. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. I thank everyone once again. This is again a first English program. We want to see what the reaction of audience is. This is going to be purely on our pure focus is going to be on YouTube. And the title of this program is going to be in English. And we want to actually start an international conversation on this important issue of Duran. So I thank everybody for spending the past 1.5 years. It's a very difficult task to cover basically 200 plus years of history in 1.5 hours. I'm sure our technology wasn't the greatest, sharing the right maps. But again, this is a process, and I'm not the sole owner of this process. I'm just an ordinary Afghan trying to start this conversation. I call upon all Afghans, any age, any country, to let's join this conversation. I want to pass the torch to the next person who wants to do a better job than me, have a better conversation than I can have. I just want to ignite this fire of freedom for people of both sides of Duran line. This is a great historical injustice and error, and we have to have the candid conversation trying to fix this issue. We always have programs in Pashto or Dari. Every Afghan is very familiar with every detail of this, but we want to take this issue to international stage, international conversation, international issue. I'm asking all the Afghans to please help me and join me in this process. This is not my process. This is all of our process. This video is going to be available on YouTube. I'm requesting all of you again, share it with your children, share it with your younger generation family members who are not understanding maybe this issue in the past. And when we speak in Pashto or Dari, maybe this is a better conversation in English. And we want to see how the reaction is. So I ask everybody to help us in this process. I'll talk more about it in coming days. Until then, God bless you all. And it's basically a process for peace. And I want peace and blessing of Allah upon every one of you. Good night, good evening, and take care.